But one thing to also understand is what you pay attention to gets bigger and it gets more intense. And so if you want to disconnect from all of the chaos and not be filled with fear and anxiety all the time, the first thing to do is to stop pulling up your social media feed and just trust that if there's something important going on in the world or in your community, that you will be brought that information in a way that will serve you. Hey there, prosperity seeker. Welcome to another episode of The Prosperity Approach. I'm your host, Allyson Chavez, and I'm so happy that you found me, and I'm so happy you joined me. Now, before we dive into today's topic, I do want to remind you that if you're listening to the audio version of this episode, then make sure that you're following the podcast on your favorite app. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, be sure to click that red subscribe button below and click the notification bell so you get notified every time a new podcast episode is released. So I want to talk today about how to have continuous courage. I had a client write in about this. How do you have continuous courage to follow nudges even when they seem off point? I've had other clients say, why do we even plan for the future? Why do we continue to dream? There is so much fear. There is so much violence. There is so much uncertainty on the planet right now. Why even bother making plans for the future? And how do I look at the future without being fearful? Because everyone I talk to is just talking doomsday and end of the world and death and dismemberment and, all of those things. And I thought this is very, very much worth a conversation around this. How do you have continuous courage? Henry David Thoreau said this. He said, most men live lives of quiet desperation and go to their graves with the song still in them. And it's really easy to see why we are in a lot of upheaval right now. We're in a lot of uncertainty and a lot of unsettlement and anxiety and worry and all of that right now in the world. There's lots and lots of chaos. And when people are really concerned about how do I even make plans? What do I even do for like I said before, why bother? Everything is so unsettled. And I have thought about this quite a bit. One thing that I do know is that the mass consciousness of the planet is and has always been wired towards fear. Fear and going over the cliff and living under a bridge and death and dismemberment and nothing's ever going to work out. Nothing's ever going to get better. Things aren't going to change. So it's just the whole chicken little sky is falling. And it's really, really easy to look at that and to dive into that because it's everywhere. It's all around us. As of the taping of this episode, we're in a drought where I live, and a lot of the country has been in a drought, and it's been a pretty severe drought. And so it's conserve water and only water twice a week and don't water if you don't have to. And I get that. And I, support conservation and all the things. But I remember when we weren't in a drought, and do you know what the whole messaging was? Well, this can't last, so you better save water because we're going to have a drought soon enough. You can't even enjoy a good day because the bad days are coming. Have you noticed that? We're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And do you want to know why? Because we keep being told to wait for the other shoe to drop. The good times can only last for so long, and then we're going to dive again. It's ludicrous, and it's absolute insanity that all of the speak going on in the media and the news and everything. And it's nothing new. This is not suddenly everything's falling apart. It's always been that way. Always been that way. And it's just more on our face now because we have easier access to the news and to the media than we have ever had before. And I mean, it's like beyond 24/7, right? Like we can't even get away from it because of algorithms. And, we click on Google and then boom, up comes some articles. And, we can start in anxiety if that's what we choose to focus on. There is also opposite of mass consciousness of fear and desperation and worry, anxiety. We have to maintain a balance in the universe. One of the universal laws is that everything has to be in balance. It's the law of harmony. And so if we have all of this chaos, there has to also be calm, and there has to be wisdom, and there has to be the opposite of the fear and the chaos and all of the fear mongering going on. And what I call that is mass genius. And so I want to be connected to mass genius rather than mass consciousness as much as possible, because that's where the inspiration is. That's where the peace is. That's where the ideas are. That's where you can stay certain in the midst of uncertainty, no matter what is going on around you. And so I hope it's valuable to you, but I want to share with you what I do to stay in certainty in the midst of uncertainty, and what I do to stay grounded and settled when everything just feels really, really topsy-turvy all the time. One thing that I realized really clearly is that the whole language around everything's so uncertain and everything is so unsettled has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. The future is always unknown. The future is always uncertain. I don't know what's going to happen next Thursday. Nobody knows what's going to happen next Thursday. There are going to be a whole bunch of projections for it, but nobody really knows because next Thursday doesn't even exist on our timeline yet. And the world has been coming to an end since before Christ was here over 2,000 years ago. I mean, they were waiting for the end then, and they were waiting for the Messiah to come save them, and then the second coming. And people have been waiting for the second coming ever since Jesus died, even like before Jesus died. Like it's just, and we get closer every day, right? We get closer every day. But this whole conversation about uncertainty and the future being unknown, it has been since the world began. So it's just as uncertain now as it was 30 years ago, and as it was 800 years ago, and as it was 4,000 years ago. Like, that's the same. And it's okay. We can still be certain in the midst of uncertainty. I don't know who said this. It's been credited with Abraham Lincoln, and I don't know whether he said it or not. Whoever said it, though, it doesn't matter. What matters is that it's true. And they said the greatest way or the best way to predict your future is to create it. And you absolutely can. You can create your own future. It's what I do. It's what I teach others to do. But the first thing that you've got to get nailed down with that is certainty. Certainty that everything works out for you. Certainty that God has created this universe to support you, and that God has your back and the universe has your back, and it's mathematically and divinely orchestrated on your behalf. The universe is friendly to your needs. It's friendly to your desires. It's not conspiring against you at all. And when you can get into that kind of certainty in the midst of uncertainty, already that will ramp up your courage. Because make no mistake, like, it does take enormous amounts of courage to live the life that you desire. It takes, and not only just to live the life that you desire, but to follow your desires and to trust those pullings of your heart, and to trust the nudges that come that don't make any sense, that don't match your budget. Your dreams will never match your budget, ever, ever, ever. And it does take continuous courage to keep following where your dreams are whispering to you to go, pulling you to go, sometimes shoving you in the direction that your dreams want you to go. So yeah, believe me, it takes courage to do that. It takes courage for me to do that every day as well, because it's really, really easy to look around and buy into all of the chaos, for sure. But one thing to also understand is what you pay attention to gets bigger and it gets more intense. Because energy flows where attention goes. And if we put more energy on anything, it's going to just make it bigger. And that works for us, and it also works against us. And so if you want to like disconnect from all of the chaos and not be filled with fear and anxiety all the time, the first thing to do is to stop pulling up your social media feed and reading everybody's political views on whatever platform you're reading them on. Like stop and just trust that if there's something important going on in the world or in your community, that you will be brought that information in a way that will serve you. But right now, we are just in rabbit holes and landmines all over the place with our information. And it's so easy to get completely consumed by that. But if you want continuous courage, you've got to put your focus on those things that give you courage. Listening to other people's rags to riches stories and inspirational ideas and motivational talks and all those things. You want to put your attention there. That will help feed the fire of your courage. That's the first thing I would do. Disconnect from the things that make you feel afraid and connect to the things that give you hope, that give you inspiration, that help you see, oh my gosh, if she can do it, then I can do it as well. And also understanding that the world has lived in upheaval since the very dawn of time. And that's not going to change till Jesus comes again and we get closer every single day. And let's talk about that for just a second as well. Back in the early 1900s, Wallace Wattles wrote a book called The Science of Getting Rich. I highly recommend it. He talks a little bit about fear of the future, and he says that everybody says that the earth is going to hell. It is doing no such thing. The world is not going to hell. The world is going to heaven. And I really loved that line. And that's pretty much all he said about it, if I remember. But I think he didn't dive really deep into it. But I pondered on that for a while. And I thought, the world is going to heaven. If you're a Christian and you believe in the return of Jesus, then we're literally preparing the earth for Jesus to come again. And he's going to take the earth to heaven. And so the earth is literally being prepared to go to heaven. Well, if one of the universal laws is law of harmony and we have to stay in balance and we see all of the darkness and all of the chaos and the confusion and the evil and all of the stuff that's going on that causes upset in the world, that means in order to stay in balance, we have to have the same degree of peace and of calm and of light and of goodness being pumped into the world, which is where you come in. If you want to play with the light rather than diving into the dark. And since you're listening to this podcast, you definitely want to play in the light. And so as you do things that keep turning your light on and helping you shine your light that's uniquely yours with your own flavor and your own style and your own way that's you're adding to the light. And I don't know about you, but I kind of feel like the world needs more light now more than ever before in its whole history. We need messages of peace. We need messages of humor, of good, uplifting humor and courage and confidence and certainty, and that we're not alone. And God is in the details of our life. The devil's not in the details. God is in the details of your life, of my life, of every person's life. And as we will pay attention to that and put our energy there, we'll add more and more light to the world, which will help the world get into better balance and prepare us for even greater things to come. We don't know when the earth is going to be done. All right? We don't know when the end of the world is. But here's the thing, that's not the point. The point is you. You don't know when the end of your life is. I remember I was part of a conversation, kind of listening in on a conversation with a high income earner. She's makes multiple 8 figures, going for 9 figures. And when I was doing all of the zeros, that's like 100 million. Like 100 million a year is what she's doing in her business. She is highly inspiring and just an amazing person with amazing company. And somebody said, like, what makes you take risks? And what goes through your mind when you're making these decisions to take your company higher and to do things that you've never done before? And she said, what goes through my mind? I'm going to die. And we all just were surprised and we just kind of started to laugh. And she said, no, that's literally what goes through my mind. To help me make big decisions and scary decisions, I'm going to die. None of us is going to make it out of this life alive. None of us do. None of us will. And I don't know when I'm going to die. And you don't know when you're going to die. All I know is I'm going to die. And I don't want to die not having tried this or not having experienced this. I won't do that. I'm going to die. And I don't know when I'll get another opportunity like this, and whatever this is, where she has a decision to make that requires courage. I don't know when I'm going to have an opportunity like this again, because I'm going to die. So I'm going to take the opportunity now, because that's all I have is right now. And that was so inspiring to me, because I used to say those exact same words myself. I'm going to die. But it didn't sound like the way she said it. It sounded like this. I'm going to die. What if I try that and I die? Or worse, I lose my money. Like, what? I'm gonna die. And I think that we have this program and that thought running in our minds quite a bit. And it's not an empowering sentence. Not when you say it like that. I'm gonna die. What if this experiment doesn't work and I die? Like, we live in this do or die energy all the time, and that we are one step away from death. But we are one step away from death, perhaps. But instead of taking the panic out of it and letting it be a motivator, changes the whole dynamic of everything. If I'm going to die, why am I putting off this memory I desire to make with my family? If I'm going to die, why am I not remodeling the home that I've been complaining about for the last 10 years? If I'm going to die, why don't I say what needs to be said? Why don't I ask her out? Why don't I ask him out? If I'm going to die, why don't I hire somebody on my team to help me scale my company? If I'm going to die, why don't I fill in the blank? Because you are. And it takes a whole lot more courage to follow your dreams than it does to obey your fears. Because that's what we're conditioned to do, is to trust the fears and to trust the doubt. And what I propose is to doubt your doubt before you doubt your faith. Doubt the doubters, doubt the naysayers and the doomsdayers. Look at the people that are the movers and the shakers and that are spreading their light and that are living their life. They are not available to leading lives of quiet desperation and going to their graves with their songs still in them. And that's what I decided as well. I don't want to live safely so that I can die safely. Now, that doesn't mean that I purposely put myself in harm's way or that I take risks that are just for the sake of being risky and reckless. Be wise. But I take risks all the time, almost every day. And they're calculated risks. And they're risks that are designed to help me grow. And it's exciting and it's exhilarating. And when I was in a free fall and when everything was falling apart, and I was filled with so much fear, one of the things that helped me get out of that fear was I just had this meditation or this visualization that I was doing, and I was picturing being at the end of my life and meeting God, meeting my Maker and meeting my Savior. And them asking me what I did with the inspiration they gave me, with the nudges they gave me, with the opportunities that they gave me. And I pictured the conversation that would happen if I told them that I didn't follow the nudges because they were scary. And in my mind, my argument was, but God, you don't understand. It was scary down there. It was really loud. It was really noisy. There was cancel culture going on. There was so much criticism that was going on. You couldn't say anything without offending somebody. And it was super scary. I was afraid of debt. What if we had lost our money? What if I said something somebody didn't like? And what if I offended somebody and people didn't like me? And it was just too scary for me to do that. You see, I couldn't put money on a credit card to to put something on a credit card so that I could build a company that could potentially change people's lives. I couldn't do that. That was just way too scary, because what if we had to owe interest on it because we couldn't make more than the minimum payment for a long time? What if, oh my word, what if I had to file bankruptcy and then the whole world would end? And like, I pictured this conversation with me trying to justify why I obeyed the fear rather than listening to the nudges and following the nudges. And by the way, God was not in my imagination, like arms folded with the tisk tisk and the shame finger. He was just listening with love and a smile and kindness on his face in my own imagination, saying, "Us, I see that. Yes, I see that. But I was there with you the whole time. You were never alone. I structured the whole planet and your whole life to support you every step of the way. And all that was required of you was to listen to those nudges and then to follow them. With no judgment and no censorship and no like, you're going to hell." But when I pictured that, I did not want to have that kind of conversation at the end of my life. I wanted to have this conversation that sounded more like, "Holy cow, that was so exhilarating. Oh my word, do you remember when I went for broke for my dreams? And we landed in a bankruptcy, but all for my dreams." And it's because, really, I was filled with terror the whole time because I forgot to listen to the nudges. But then I learned how to listen to the nudges, and look how things exploded in the best way. And the bankruptcy was the greatest thing that could ever happen to us. And all of the upset in our family and the way that we were able to heal our children and heal my marriage and my relationships and the difference that I got to make in my tiny little corner of the world. And we got to go to Hawaii and we got to live there. And I got to make such amazing friends and have the greatest conversations. And I got to upset people's apple carts just a little bit in the most wonderful ways. And thank you so much for that exhilarating experience. And here's what I created based on the materials that you gave me. And I know that this is like a 4-year-old's diorama, but here's my offering. Here's what I did with my gifts and with the nudges and the opportunities that you gave me. And here's how I let go of the fear. And I just continually chose courage more and more and more. And I saw your hand everywhere in my life. And thanks so much for that. And here you go. And knowing full well that it's like this, 4-year-old's macaroni necklace that I'm handing a loving parent, and him saying, "Well done. That's magnificent. This is a masterpiece." That's the conversation that I am going to have with God at the end of my life. I am not willing to live a life of quiet desperation and go to my grave with my song still in me. And whether my song warbles a little bit, and whether my song has moments where my voice is super shaky and moments where I have to whisper it because I'm crying, or other times when I am belting it, when you will continually choose courage and you will make decisions based on your desire to grow, it will change everything. You will find the people will find you that you require to support you taking that next step. You'll look to the future with peace and joy and excitement and gratitude rather than fear or trepidation or terror or anxiety. Because you understand that everything always works out for you and that God loves you so much and He has your back every microsecond of your life. And you'll allow yourself to make mistakes. And you'll allow yourself to be awkward and to be uncomfortable. And you'll allow yourself not to be perfect and to show up flawed and to offend others, because you understand that when you don't have a desire to offend and you're not trying to purposely offend, then their offense is their deal. It's based on their own perceptions and their belief systems and traumas and hurts and pains that they have gone through in their life, and it has nothing to do with you. You're still filled with kindness. You're still filled with love, but you're direct and you're honest and you're loving. And it's just, and you keep making plans for the future because you're going to die. Because you're going to die. And then you finally let yourself live. Thoreau said something else about he didn't want to get to the end of his life to realize that he hadn't lived. And that was the decision I made as well. And I invite you to make that decision too. There's no need to fear the future. This world is going to God. Do you want to help it get to God? Then continually choose courage. Make decisions based on your desire to grow and to experience greater and greater things. Continually ask yourself, how good am I willing to let life get? Let it feel scary. Let it feel intense. Let it feel awkward and uncomfortable and clunky and clumsy at first. And just keep on going. Just keep on going. And life will open up in unexpected and glorious ways. I'll end with this quote from Thoreau. Apparently, I'm channeling him today. He says, "If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours." Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Endeavor to live the life you imagine, and you will meet with a success unexpected in common hours, because you're no longer doing common things and you're no longer thinking common fear-filled thoughts. You're doing uncommon things and you're thinking uncommon thoughts, and you will meet with a success unexpected and absolutely delightful. If you like this conversation, come play with me over in the Facebook group. Come join the Prosperity Experience. Do a search for that. I do Wednesday Wisdom Drops every Wednesday in that group as a Facebook Live. Come be with us. Come go forward confidently in the direction of your dreams. You're not meant to do it alone. Come walk with us. Stay close. Be in this kind of energy as much as you possibly can. And until next time, remember, prosperity becomes you.